Welcome lore lovers to the first episode of Gaming Bios, where we deliver canonical character bios from gaming titles of the most popular variety to the most obscure. If they have a background worth sharing, we're here to share it. I'm your host, Eric Brown, and today we'll be covering one of our all-time favorites, Coach from the Left 4 Dead series.
My friends call me Coach. I guess y'all can do the same.
Although his real name is known only to himself now, Coach is a main character in the Left 4 Dead franchise that has to date consisted of 2 games, 5 DLCs, 6 spin-offs, and a comic book series that unveils a dark fate of one of the beloved original Left 4 Dead protagonists. Left 4 Dead is a zombie FPS that was released in 2008 and sold in excess of 629,000 copies, with the entire series of Left 4 Dead selling upwards of 11 million copies worldwide. The character Coach is based upon the face model Darnell Rice, an actor from Jake and the Fat Man, and voiced by Chad Coleman, also an actor whom ironically plays the badass Tyrese Williams in the Walking Dead TV series, which also happens to be set in a zombie-infested world. Born and raised in Savannah, Georgia, Coach was an up-and-coming defensive lineman whose career was ended by a devastating knee injury. Following this injury, Coach continued his education, graduated with a physical education degree where he would eventually teach at a high school in his local town of Savannah. On top of teaching, Coach would also be the defensive coordinator for the school's football team. For anyone curious, a defensive coordinator is a person that manages the roster of the defense, oversees assistant coaches, develops defensive game plans, and calls plays for the defense during games. Now, there is a large gap in Coach's life up until the zombie apocalypse in Left 4 Dead 4, but we can for sure speculate on a few things up until that time. Coach presumably worked from the age of 22 or 23 as a defensive coordinator until the outbreak happened at his age of around 44. He seems to have no real family that he speaks of, and although he's on good terms with everyone in his group, namely Ellis, he seems to develop a closer kinship with Rochelle throughout the series, which furthers the idea that he's possibly unmarried. Whether those emotions shown throughout the series are romantic or out of friendship in a time of chaos, it is up in the air and generally left up to the players to discuss and expand upon it. For the outbreak during Coach's teaching career, he developed a penchant for eating, causing him to become slightly overweight and somewhat out of shape at the time of the outbreak. Most notably complaining of his knee while scaling 30 flights of stairs to a helicopter escape pad in one of the Left 4 Dead maps. Size speculation has always been around concerning game characters, and Coach is no exception to this rule. Although the speculation of Coach's size existed, he was eventually listed as weighing in at 265 pounds, according to some dev talk when speaking on the nuances of motion capture. As a defensive lineman, Coach would have probably weighed somewhere between 230 to 245 pounds and ranged from 5'9 to 6'1 in height. So despite a teaching career of 22 years, Coach seems to only have gained 20 pounds, which while a little bit larger for an ex-athlete, for a teacher/coach, you could assume he's somewhere around 45 pounds overweight. Relating to his size and stature, one could say that Coach put on a great deal of his weight due to his penchant for sweets. He is clearly quite fond of chocolate and is even shown in some official media portrayals consuming it. He talks about cotton candy, food courts, food tents, and of course the food store. He curses more than any other character in the series, but is also probably one of the best shot callers next to Bill when it comes to having to make the fast decision in dire situations. Who is Coach really? Now that we have a little insight to who Coach was before the outbreak, we can take a deep dive into the enigma that is Coach during. Mainly being, why didn't Coach give his companions his real name? According to Merriam-Webster, to coach is, from the concept that the tutor conveys the student throughout examinations, A private tutor hired to coach or help a daughter prepare for a test, B, one who instructs or trains, an acting coach, a birth coach, especially one who instructs players in the fundamentals of sports and directs team strategy, a football coach, a pitching coach, a gymnastics coach, etc. Coach, like in many other instances such as hit TV series Coach from 1989 to 1997, or the more current Ted Lasso series that is ongoing, becomes a name synonymous with someone you can look up to and trust. Coaches are people who are supposed to aid you in your journey throughout your formative years, until you decide the adult path you wish to take. Now these aren't always sports-related instances. As Merriam-Webster stated above, a private tutor, or to extrapolate on that, even a loved one can be a coach. These are just the people that instruct, provide order, and sometimes serve as surrogate figures to people in times of need. And maybe That's what a coach really is, a desired person in a time of need. Even when his travel companions are unaware of it, a man who shows his resilience, his survivability, and his ability to lead outside the football field when lives are on the line. Does a name really matter when you're living day to day facing threats around every corner? I suppose when it comes down to it, ask yourself in comparison, would you rather follow a person into a potentially dangerous situation if their name was Soldier? Or would you be more willing to follow a Bob in a battle? The name Soldier puts into perspective a person's abilities on how they want to be perceived, and possibly what they're capable of. Or maybe it's much more simple than that, and I'm completely overthinking it. Maybe Coach lost his entire family to the infection. For some people, family is their entire identity. Maybe that's what happened to Coach. He lost that, and in a sense, lost himself. No talk of home, or work, or his past, because he'd rather forget all that. So when he tells a group of people that would become like a new family to him, my friends call me Coach, well maybe, just maybe he means my new family. This has been our first episode of Gaming Bios. If you like what we're doing, please let us know by hitting the like button. If you'd like to see more of our future content, please subscribe and give a click to that notification icon so you can know when we post new videos. This episode was written by Billy Scallions, and all research credits are listed on screen.